every great city has a great university, and UCLA is Los Angeles' university. And UCLA and Los Angeles will grow onto greatness together. The two are inseparable, and neither could do it without the other.
I came to UCLA after 2 years at Berkeley. It was so different. I can remember that the bungalows were made up, a lot of the campus, but it was still a large campus when I came there.
Royce Hall, of course, was the center stage, but we didn't have any of the medical school development. All those units were not there. The law school was relatively new. Indeed, everybody knew of the fantastic potential of the university.
I was very honored and lucky to be able to go to UCLA. I was the first person in my family to ever attend a school after high school, and it gave me a chance that I don't think I would have anywhere else in the world.
It was clearly a junior campus to Berkeley at that time, but through the years, particularly with the leadership of Dr. Murphy, Franklin Murphy, and then Chuck Young, this institution changed.
I saw him there during tremendous growth of the university, the medical school, the hospital, the business administration, the engineering. The university is hardly recognizable now as it was at the time he became chancellor.
UCLA has been able to build, from medicine to classics, an international scholarly reputation without turning its back on the city of Los Angeles. It wouldn't have happened without Chuck Young.
He created and took a university that had so much potential and made it into a great university in this nation.
Well, I was in Berkeley, where the office of the president is, and literally the phone rang on my desk, and the man said the other, I'm Franklin Murphy, I'm the new chancellor at UCLA. I said, yes, I know. And wanted to know if I would be interested in coming down to interview, and I told him that I certainly would. And Franklin and I had not talked for 5 minutes before it was very clear that this was going to work.
I know when he started, I believe his title was assistant to the chancellor, until finally, after 8 years, he was executive vice chancellor.
And it was obvious that Chancellor Murphy had the highest regard for Chuck, and this immediately persuaded the rest of us correctly that this was a very fine young man.
Clearly, I think Franklin believed that Chuck was the man to carry UCLA into the glory years. I think Franklin believed that deeply. He once said to me not long ago that his greatest gift to UCLA was Chuck Young.
Like many others, when he became chancellor, I was a little bit surprised, not because I had any doubt about his qualifications, but because of his youth to be appointed chancellor at a university such as UCLA.
The atmosphere at UCLA during the late 60s was tumultuous. There was a lot of protest activity. The Vietnam War was going on. There were demonstrations on campus. And it was in that environment that Chuck Young took over for Franklin Murphy as chancellor of the university.
It was a positive impact that someone youthful took the reins at UCLA who could sort of relate to the students and to the pressing issues of the time.
That always impressed me, because people who worked with him and who was around him, as I was, always appreciated the fact that he was a person who they could depend on, who they knew where he stood.
And that's been one of his strengths, is staying with his beliefs. A lot of people get leaned on, and they have to change, and Chuck hasn't done that. And by the way, you make a few enemies when you do that, but it also stands you in good stead, I think, in terms of what you believe in.
I think the thing that strikes me most about Chuck is that he's been at this job for a long, long time, not just as chancellor, but as a part of the UCLA community. There aren't too many of us that can sustain a level of energy and commitment and enthusiasm to a particular task, especially a tough leadership task, for more than 7, 8, 10 years. I mean, think of the average corporate CEO. I mean, these folks don't last more than 8 or 10 years. That's not the Chancellor.
Well, for some 16 or 17 years, as a member of the Board of Regents in the University of California, I had an opportunity to work with and observe Charles Young. And I got to tell you that there was nobody better in the university system. He was just extraordinary. He understood the need for diversity. He understood the need to make sure that people had access to the university. He knew how to recruit quality faculty. He was, frankly, a godsend for the University of California.
He has the ability to realize what the potentials are. And he also has the courage to attempt to accomplish what he's thought of.
And what I've come to see is a man of tremendous courage, a man of great integrity. Not only is he a professional, not only is he prudent and thoughtful, but he's the kind of leader who I think would much rather have to ask for forgiveness than for permission.
Well, my first impression of Chancellor Young was that he was terribly impatient, and it has served him and UCLA very well, this so-called impatience, because it means that he has this capacity to deal with and look at so many issues all at once.
He would do whatever was necessary for him to be able to accomplish what he believed was best for UCLA. And often that caused him to get into loggerheads with many people in different roles and in different kinds of positions.
And there are times when you want to say to him, Chuck, back off. He doesn't back off. If he believes strongly in something, he doesn't back off.
I'll never forget when we were struggling with the Board of Regents at that infamous hearing in San Francisco where Ward Connolly's resolution cutting out affirmative action in the UC system was passed. Chuck Young sat next to me and I saw tears in his eyes. He got up and made one of the most impassioned pleas for the Board of Regents not to take this step. And he said, we have enriched our institution through its diversity.
And he has opened that university to this vast array of people who live in our society, who will be the future of our society and who will carry it down from generation to generation.
It is important for us to develop people who are going to be leaders in those communities which are going to become majority community. We need to have people who are prepared to provide leadership in this multicultural society.
Obviously, there were people who disagreed with what he thought and what he said, but I was 100% supportive of what he said and what he did, because he, I think, made all of us realize that students of color who traditionally may have been cut out of the system at other universities and other systems were not going to be cut out of UCLA.
I taught a class last year in the American presidency. I had about 55, 60 students, wonderful kids. I think over half of them were first-generation Americans, but they came from every conceivable ethnic, cultural, and racial background. Greeks, Latinos, Iranians, Bangladeshis, African Americans, I mean, you name it. Terrific kids.
You talk about believing in diversity. I mean, anybody that knows Chuck knows this is reaching pretty far. I mean, he even thinks it's good as a part of diversity to have Republicans like me coming from the political science department at UCLA.